Most people grew up with a happy little show called Pingu. It was a show that had a clay-mated penguin named Pingu, and it showed his adventures. The character spoke in some sort of Penguinese language. The original show ran from 1986 to 2006. There was apparently an unreleased episode that was released 1 year later, in 2007. Now, this is where it starts to become interesting. When I was 5 or 6, I saw the beginning of an episode called Pingu's Punishment. I only saw a bit of it, but what I remember was Pingu was very angry, and his mother began smashing plates. I also remember the episode was about Pingu playing outside when he was supposed to be doing chores around the house. Well, igloo, whatever. My mom came in at the plate smashing part, shut off the TV, as she told me dinner was ready. I was looking up the episode list on Wikipedia some years later to find out that no episode was released under that title. I thought this as an adventure to myself, and I contacted Trick Film Studio, the company that made Pingu. I asked them for a complete production guide of Pingu. They sent me to it. They sent me a copy of it via email. I looked at it, compared it to Wikipedia's list, and noticed something was wrong with the final series. Pingu Helps Grandfather, which was the 23rd episode of Series 4, or Season 4, was missing. At the bottom was an episode titled Pingu Ending. I asked for a synopsis, but they refused to give me one, saying it was personal. I then googled Pingu Ending and Pingu's Punishment, then I found something. It was on rapidshare.com. The file's name was Pingu's Punishment Unreleased Episode, Last Episode.zip, and I downloaded it. I went to my downloads and found the folder. It contained two files. One was a notepad file. It was called fear.txt. I opened it and it read, "This is an unreleased episode of Pingu dated April 11th, 2006. This originally planned to end the series, and this was actually released in some countries. Watch at your own risk." I began to feel a bit suspicious and my heart pounded, but my curiosity overtook me. I opened the second file, which was an AVI file. The first part was the same episode I saw when I was a kid, however, something felt off. The theme song was distorted, and instead of Pingu's usual note sound, there was backwards audio. I recorded it with sound recorder, and it played "You Can't Survive Like This Beyond Death." I found that very creepy, but continued with the video. I got to the part where Pingu's mom was smashing plates. Suddenly, it cut to black. A blood-curdling scream was heard. It faded back to the kitchen. Pingu's mother was sitting on a stool crying, only it sounded more realistic. She began crying, but it sounded to start like laughter. Suddenly, it cut to Pinga, Pingu's sister. Pinga was lying down on the floor, and her head was ripped off. I paused it there, and I felt sick. But what made me sick more was that it wasn't clay blood. It was either food coloring or real. I continued it. Pingu's mother kept crying. Suddenly, it cut to a black and white video of two scientists going to a slaughterhouse. It showed a bunch of cows getting slaughtered. Suddenly, it showed a penguin being stunned and then being hung upside down, rather. The butcher slit the penguin's throat and it died from blood loss. It showed pictures of dead penguins all over the place. It then cut back to the episode, and Pingu's mother was still crying. A trampoline was in the kitchen. There was also a ceiling fan. She jumped up to the fan and blood splattered everywhere as she was decapitated on impact. The body of Pingu's mom fell down. It showed pictures of the dead bodies of Pingu, his friend Robbie, and other characters. An old music box playing Hush Little Baby faintly played. I paused to go to the bathroom to vomit. I felt really nauseous and sick after witnessing what I just watched. I continued a little further. A distorted voice said something backwards. I recorded it and played it in reverse. It said, "Your life will be all pitch black in a few seconds." My chest pounded. The credits were in New Times Roman text. The background continued to show the disturbing images from before. It closed with a background of a mask with red eyes. The mask suddenly said in a distorted tone, "Darkness begins now." Suddenly my computer froze. The lights in the room then flickered and my power in the house went out. It came back on within a few seconds. I was now shaking and wanted to find the source of this little film. I got in contact with Carlo Bonami, the voice of all the characters. I pretended it was an interview and I talked about Pingu. I finally mentioned Pingu's punishment. He stopped, asked where I heard it before. I explained the entire thing to him, then he told me what really happened that led to this. During the 4th season of Pingu, there was a writer/animator named Ted Goldman. Ted was a quiet man who usually wasn't that sociable. Sometimes during the middle of the season, Ted's mother had been trying to reach something from the upper shelf. The ceiling fan was still on, as she was decapitated by accident. Ted was immediately hurt by this. He began submitting morbid ideas such as Pingu killing the other characters and he even asked Bonami to do a voice of Pingu dying. Goldman found out Pingu was closing production by the end of the season. Ted passed off the episode as the series finale. Right after they watched the episode, they discovered Ted was being charged with animal cruelty, bestiality, and murder. Ted left an apparent suicide note claiming he was going to live in Antarctica. However, no records claim he was ever there and was last spotted in Santa Barbara, California, purchasing a gun. They never found him, dead or alive. I was left shocked at this. Then a thought occurred to me to play the entire episode backwards, starting from the part where the distorted voice began. I heard simply a scream, a shout, and there's some words that I heard from a distance during the beginning of the episode when I was young that still haunts me to this day. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you that it told me the only way out of this hell is suicide. However, that reminds me of another incident that I came across. Despite the fact that the executives killed my friend Sergey after the events of the Magic School Bus got out to the public, I discovered something much, much, much more dark and sinister. It was from my younger sister, and it was a show that she really, really enjoyed watching. But I will explain everything that happened there. It is a show that she watched as a child, and it disturbed me like nothing else.